Good morning, it's Elizabeth Estel, Homeschool Christian Mom, and it's week 2 of teaching your children at home if you're new to it because of the coronavirus. And I was just trying to come live and see if I could answer any questions to help you, because I know it's difficult when you're teaching your own children, and maybe you did all the fun stuff last week, and now you're having to do some of the harder subjects this week. And if you have young children with math, maybe they're having struggles, or maybe they're just not wanting to do the math. So I do recommend doing math first thing in the morning, and also to give your children good explanation of what math is. And I think sometimes math people forget that the people that aren't math people are wondering, when will I ever use this, and why is this any good for me? So one thing that you want to do to explain to your children is that you will use math the rest of your life, and you will need to be able to manage your money and a checkbook. And so how are you going to do that? What is that going to look like? And you are going to need to have some of these skills for reasoning and problem solving. So with young children, they usually understand the one-on-one correspondence, that you're adding things together. And so 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9. And then sometimes they have trouble with subtracting 9 minus 3. And this is why you have to go ahead and work with them and have manipulatives or Lego blocks or something that they can see that you have 9 things and you're taking away 3 things. And this is why you have 6 things left. Now, when they do math worksheets, they might have 100 addition problems. And so you're not seeing the manipulatives. But what you have to remember is to tell your children 5 minus 3 is 5 things minus 3 things, and 2 things are left. Now, I had a daughter that had difficulty with this, but when she got to any word problems, real life word problems, she did fine because it was concrete to her. She could understand 5 buttons plus 3 buttons equaled 8 buttons. So some children really need to know that you're talking about things, not just numbers. I recently read a book by John Urschel, Mind and Matter. He was a offensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens, and he's also a math genius. And he was talking about math in such a nice way. I was like, why didn't someone explain it to me like that? Hi, thanks for joining me. Why didn't someone explain it so that I could understand it so easily? I was just wondering, it would have been so great if somebody had put it in real life words. Hi, Maribel, how are you doing? I hope everything in Spain is going well. Thanks for joining me. So I wished somebody had taken the time with math to just explain it to me a little better. So when you have a great big worksheet, they're not going to be like, these are your 100 math facts, and here's a little word problem to go with each one of them. But you can explain that to your child. Now, with multiplication, a lot of children learn by step counting: 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. And then they can learn that backwards for division. Or you can say 18 divided into 6 groups is going to equal 3. I was worried about doing this live because I kept thinking, I will mix up all my math facts today because I'm doing it live. But 5 times 3 is 15. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Just we'll go with there instead of using the 18 model. So sometimes when they're going forward with addition or multiplication, children get it, and subtraction and division are more difficult. So make it into a word problem. Make it into, you have 315 kids, and each one gets 3 jelly beans. How many kids can you give jelly beans to? Or whatever you're going to do to help make it more real for them. And then when you're getting into your algebra and you're having an n to take the place of an unknown, those are teaching your child how to think and problem solve. So you're going to be doing that in a different way with your children, but it doesn't mean they're not going to use algebra and they're never going to use algebra 2. And I was so surprised when I got to physics. I was like, oh, this is why you need to know your algebra. So you can solve your physics problems. And then when someone shoots an arrow and it has this curvature and it went this far, you can know how much tension you had on your bow and arrow or whatever. But there's a reason for all this math. And one thing that book showed is math explains how the world works. God has made the world so exact that you can use math to show the movement of the planets. And you can use math to show the movement of an asteroid through the gravity field of another planet and what the trajectory will be. And you can use math to show how water runs in a stream. And you can use math to show, for example, we went to the Pixar exhibit at a museum, the science behind Pixar, and that's like huge math, okay, and huge computer things. And you might say, well, it's computer graphics, but they had to know the math. For example, in Bug's Life, when they're making the grass for Bug's Life, they made each blade of grass a parabola, which is a special shape. You can change the shape by height, length, and width, and then you can also change color. So they made this math for the parabola of a blade of grass, and then they could change each description of each blade of grass slightly mathematically so that they could do a whole field of grass that looked real because they had changed it, and then they could put it in a GUI formula so that you can just slide it on your computer, so the people who are designing didn't have to know the math. They could just slide their finger on the GUI application and make sure, which is a graphic user-friendly interface, and then they could use that to draw grass. They did the same kind of thing when they did Sully's fur for ice for Monsters Inc. They did the same kind of thing when they did Marita's hair for Brave, and they showed all that, which is really fascinating. If you ever get to go to that kind of a presentation, it was worth going to. We spent a couple of hours, and I wished we'd had more time. So you're going to be using your math. I'm talking about elementary and high school math, but there are real world applications that you can use to motivate your children. And one thing you need to do is not just freak out because you're having to work with algebra 2 again. I had one mom tell me, I didn't even like math, and now I've got to teach math, and my kids are going to know how much math I don't know. But the explanations in the curriculums are usually very good. Hopefully your school has some online support if you need it. I'd like to be able to come live more often or at a better time to help people. So if you have a time that would work better for you, please put that in the comments. You can private message me during the day if you're really struggling, but you moms can do it. And I know you're highly motivated because your kids are there and you want to help your children and you want to move them forward in their educational journey. And because of the coronavirus right now, people are home teaching their children and they need a lot of support. And because I've homeschooled for so many years, it's not a new thing for us. We have a schedule, we have expectations at home, and the children were just expected to go ahead and do their work. But that didn't mean that we didn't have a pushback and hard days sometimes. And so I don't want you to think that if you're having those struggles, that that's unusual. It's going to be usual that kids don't want to do their work and they don't want to be compliant and they don't want to do it happily and joyfully, and they're not really interested in helping you with your next house cleaning project or emptying the dishwasher. That's all normal. And so a lot of homeschooling you'll find is character training. And so take this opportunity to do some intentional character training with your children. How can you be helpful to mom? How can you take the initiative? How can you be a good servant leader in your home right now? And how can these lessons help you on the job later? And those good interactions that you have with your children now are going to be very meaningful later. Oh, wow. I remember my mom sat down with me and we really just worked through this together. And it made a difference because I knew how invested she was in me as a person and in my education. And she didn't make me feel dumb. She just helped me work through it. So I hope that helps you today. I hope you're having a good day. And I'll be on later again and we can work through some things if you have some questions. Thanks so much. And I hope you have a great time today. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.